To order. First on the agenda is a pledge led by myself tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Turn it over to you, Mr. Spurlock.
Yeah, of course, we decided on Friday to close this week due to the coronavirus. Information that we received, there was one case that was identified in Rutherford County. However, we found out later on that it wasn't directly related to the school, but we do know that it's highly contagious. And some of the things the CDC has been telling us about social distancing, we decided to close for this week. Well, this morning in our meetings, we received information from Governor Lee, who encouraged all school districts to close through 3/31/20, and we decided to follow the governor's lead, and we will be closed next week, 3/23 through 3/27, and the following week will be our spring break, and we anticipate at this time, and we'll monitor it, returning back to school on April the 5th. If anything's changed, we will continue to make updates. We also established a protocol that we'll be working with our principals each day at 2:15. We have an online meetings where we bring them up to date on things that have occurred, things that have changed, and anything that's pertinent from the State Department. It just so happened today we did have an online meeting with Commissioner Schwinn. As we look at our inclement weather days, we usually allocate 11 for those days. We had previously used 3 of those 11 days, which gave us 8. With this week and next week, that would put us at a deficit of 2 days. Talking to the Commissioner Schwinn, there will be, the Commissioner of Education does have the ability to grant a waiver for the 180-day instructional days. Talking to Commissioner Schwinn, she feels like that's not going to be an issue. Hopefully, it will only be 2 days that will be requiring a waiver, but it may be more than that. All right, I put this all in context because our stockpile days will be expire as of next Wednesday, so we'll be 2 days in a deficit. I also want to bring up the fact that during this time we are going to be providing meals starting tomorrow. We'll be providing breakfast from 8 to 9 at 10 locations throughout our district. David Urey, Laverne Lake Elementary, Oakland High School, Roy Waldron Elementary, Smyrna Middle, Kittrell Elementary, Whitworth Buchanan Middle, Cedar Grove Elementary, Stewartsboro Elementary, and Riverdale High. These meals for breakfast and lunch that starts at 11 and ends at 12 will be at these locations. Anyone 18 or under, any student 18 or under, whether they live in Rutherford County or they live in the adjoining counties, will be eligible for these meals. Also, lunch will be the same. Any adult that chooses to want to eat a meal, they will be charged $2 for breakfast and $3.80 for lunch, but they must have exact change. Now, we will get reimbursed for these meals through the federal government, so this will not be at any expense to our taxpayers. When we talk about these days, these additional days that will be out, we also are very concerned about our classified employees. Our classified employees, our 10-month employees, are provided with 6 inclement weather days for the current school year. As of Wednesday of this week, they will start going into a deficit. What we're going to be requesting tonight is for the school board to approve an additional 7 days for these classified employees to meet their payroll for these 7 days that would be otherwise non-paid. Now, what we have to take into context is this if the state holds to what they've told us, and we are allowed to waive some of those days that we will be out of our stockpile days, our calendar will end on the same date that it's already stated it will end. Thus, the fiscal impact on us paying these will not impact us at all. Now, Mr. Bowdry, you want to carry us through some of the things in terms of that?
Yes, sir. Just like you stated, as long as they, we can work with the state, and like they had said they would, we could reduce it so we not going additional days. It would basically be a net zero, minimal impact to our bottom line, to be able to utilize these 7 days, additional days for our classified staff, because of course that would get them paid through next Friday, and then of course come spring break that they're off anyway for the week, and then that gives us 3 weeks solid right there to take, and our employees are hourly classified 9 and 10 month employees are then taken care of pay wise.
So what we're going to request tonight is the school board current operating budget fund 6 inclement weather days for the current school year, with a recommendation from Governor Lee that all public schools close in response to the current coronavirus health crisis. There's a need to add 7 additional inclement weather days to our current year school calendar to provide the classified 9 and 10th month hourly school staff and pay them through Friday, March the 27th. A request will be made by the state, that I talked about, to waive some of these days and to keep our calendar as is. And I'm asking motion to approve these 7 additional inclement weather days to our current year school calendar to provide classified 9 and 10 month hourly staff with pay through next Friday, March the 27th.
Okay, have a motion?
So move.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Got any questions or comments?
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I do. Mr. Spurlock, I'm so glad we addressed this first because I'm very, very concerned about our classified employees and making sure they get paid. But I did have someone ask me the question, and I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know the answer to it. I mean, technically, what's happening here is a national kind of state of emergency. It's not, they're not inclement weather days.
That's right.
Is there anything at all in state statute or anything that would allow us to be able to pay the employees without having to utilize those days, or what's it? And also, I guess my other question would be, do we know what it's going to look like at this point if we have to go further than these 2 weeks?
Yeah, there is, to my knowledge, on the first part of it. However, going forward, if there's additional days, if the state holds to what they're telling us, that we can waive any additional days past, what we have in our inclement weather days, we're going to be funded the same way, and the calendar is going to be the same. We're going to end on the same day. So basically what he's talking about is it's money that we've already budgeted.
Right.
However, we will not, obviously we will not have to meet those days, which in turn would provide us an opportunity to pay our classified 9 and 10th month employees.
Even past, okay. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's Tennessee 49-6-3004, and in that it talks about the commissioner, the event of natural disaster or serious outbreak of illness affecting or endangered students or staff.
Okay.
That's where it comes from.
I think that came in after the flood of 2010. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, talking to the commissioner today, looking at some things. This is some things.
Wait a minute, we got to vote on that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have an additional question.
Okay.
I understand that this is for full-time employees, but we have lots of different staff members within our school. So, for instance, our cafeteria workers,
Would include them?
It would include them. So is there any staff associated with our schools that this will not cover?
No.
No. In fact, one of the things that Mr. Bowdry and I looked at, the fiscal impact And when we got confirmation of the waiver opportunities, this makes it less, problematic, I guess you will.
Okay, so they will be compensated
Like
as
they-
we go,
Right.
even like they were on a paid vacation type
Right.
situation?
As
Perfect.
long as the state upholds their part of it in the TCA, where we can request a waiver for days that we have not met outside of that 180 day.
Okay,
All right, and that's including after we got to use our stockpile days first, and we will have expended our stockpile days by next Wednesday.
right. So as it pertains to, on a household by household, as it pertains maybe an HR question, as it pertains to their being paid, they're not going to go without, they're not going to see a reduction in their pay. It'll be all the same. They won't have any interruption. Okay, thank you.
As if they were still at work the normal hours that they would work that week based on their position. I do have one other question real quickly before we vote on this. What does this look like in terms of pay and concern about income for our bus drivers? Have we talked about or addressed that?
We have. You want to speak on that?
Do you want us to go ahead, Trey? We both
We've
have been
been
talking.
discussing it. Right now, we've gone back through the contract. The bus drivers have inclement days as well. They're covered through next Thursday. If we come back after spring break, and then we're out further, the bus contractor's contract does not allow for any additional monies that they're not running. So there are some days built into their contract, and that will get us through next Thursday.
But after that, there's not
After
anything
that, there's
there
nothing.
for them to get paid?
That's correct. And that's the way the contract's written.
Okay, thank you.
Everything goes perfectly here, Mr. Director, and we hope that happens. We're out this week, next week, and we'll come back to school if everything goes perfectly. What day again?
April the 5th.
April.
Am I correct on that?
That's
6. That would give us, counting this week, that would be 3 weeks. And during that time, let's all hope that this thing is kind of subsided somewhat.
Well, I would think that we meet next week, 24th and 26th, and I would suggest obviously this needs to remain on the agenda. We may need to look at this again. We're going to know some more about this next week, but I'm very much in favor of what we're fixing to vote on here, but we need to look ahead here.
Right. One of the things, Mr. Jordan, we wanted to do, quite frankly, to be honest with you, we knew that we were going to meet Tuesday, and bear with me, the angst on some of these employees already, knowing that these 2 days, I think that's the reason why we wanted to bring it forward tonight, to maybe, and we may have to take it back up again, but we wanted to do, because I've got a lot of emails, and I'm sure some of you have too. What we wanted to do is address their concerns about Thursday and Friday of this week, and I understand what you're saying. Of course, we meet next Tuesday. We could have waited to that, but during that time, there probably would be what we want to do. We think we have some hard-working individuals in our schools. We know we do. We know it's a challenge to find people, to work nowadays. And what we're trying to do is trying to encourage our board, and I know you will, to invest in them, knowing that they've been with us, knowing that they've provided for us, and making sure that they understand that we care about them also. And I know you do, and I'm not trying to say you don't.
Anyone else?
I just got a question. Our custodial staff, are they all 9 and 10-month employees, or?
Some are.
I'd say probably somewhere around 50 to 60% are 9 and 10 month, the rest are full-time.
Do we have any plans to do anything for them?
This would include
This would include them as well. This takes care of all of our
all of
part-time.
them.
Yes, sir.
Including
Cafeteria custodians, EAs, secretaries, bookkeepers, anybody that's not a 12-month employee, this will take care of for the next 2 weeks.
The ones that are working going to be drawing a paycheck plus a paycheck, correct?
No, sir,
No.
they'll just get a check.
They're working for that check.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
Yeah, your 12 months would be, yeah,
Your 12 months already,
I understand 12 months, but I'm saying 9 and 10, like the other people.
if they're working, yes, sir, that they're actually working their regular shift, yes.
They're being forced to work, correct?
I don't know that I would say that they're being forced, but
They're being required to work. I
Yes,
guess
sir.
it's probably,
just like maintenance staff or anything else, yes, sir.
my point is, they're 9 and 10-month employees.
Yes, sir, some of them are.
Okay. So they're not being compensated anything.
In addition,
I understand the
one of
paycheck.
the
no,
things,
sir, not in addition.
one of the things, that- and I think I know where you're going, Mr. Hodge, one of the things we could look at is comp time. That may be something that we could discuss, a comp time for the 12 months. So if we're 50 to 40 to 50% on 9 and 10 months, what do we like? I mean, I'm assuming 60 and 50 on full-time?
Be pretty close.
Now, when you get into the comp time, then you'd have to get into your cafeteria workers. Now, we probably would be kind of stretched on that as far as prepping for meals, serving meals, and things of that nature. Am I correct on that?
And there's not a whole lot of cafeteria workers that'll be working at these 10 schools and contracts, because, I mean, even at the schools that we're doing the feeding at, they won't even need a full complement of those workers to do what we're doing here with the summer feed, the feeding, the special feeding. I call it summer feeding.
I think the whole thing, what Mr. Hodge was talking about was we're going to compensate for the part-time, yet the full-time are going to continue to work. And I can see where this would probably work on the custodial staff, but I think it would be very challenging to do it on anything else with your, EAs and things of that nature.
No, ones I'm talking about are your 9 and 10-month custodial.
Yeah.
I'm talking about your full-time custodial.
Yeah, I know. We're going to pay them. We're going to pay them the additional days
Don't
for
pay
them.
them additional, that's my point.
Yeah.
Gonna draw a paycheck plus additional pay.
Yes, sir, if they're able to work, and I may be wrong in this, that some people are not able to work, some are. The ones that are able to work, if they're able to work 40 hours, they're gonna work 40 hours, if they so choose.
We wouldn't double pay them.
No.
That makes no
No, no,
sense.
no.
Is that what, it's,
That's what,
No, I think
My point is that if they're being required to work, all your other employees, 9, 10 a month, leaving them at home, you follow what I'm saying? We're requiring them to work. They're gonna draw their regular paycheck for actually doing the work. But I would say they'd probably a whole lot rather be sitting at home drawing a paycheck like everybody else.
I mean, we can,
I just won't be fair. I mean, that's all I'm looking at.
we could work them. I mean, we could work the 9 and 10th month employees and pay them. But then you get back to your educational assistants. Now, one of the things, we've used educational assistants for summer work, yet our OJI has gone up, skyrocketed.
That's what I was gonna say. If an EA was to come in, a 9 and
I'm
10,
not talking about EAs. I'm talking about you're requiring the custodials to be there to clean the schools.
Not 9 and 10 months, no.
For this period.
most of
For
them
this,
are working.
for now,
For this
because they're
week,
still
yes.
covered under
For
the,
this week,
Yeah.
yes. Now, if we get the buildings clean, I guess it would be up to them next week whether I guess it'd be a choice. I don't know how that would work.
I just want to make sure we're fair to all of them. I mean, is where I'm going with this. I'm talking about the custodial staff since they're being required to work.
I don't know what our solution would be, I
Could we
guess.
look at maybe offering them comp time later?
Well, that's what
all this stuff?
I think that may be something that we can do.
I think if we could do something like that, that would kind of help offset this,
we could do that.
make it more fair.
Yeah, I don't,
That'd be within each individual school.
They would have, how many days? They would have 6 days?
well, it depends on how many hours they work.
That's right.
See, some of them work 4 hours a day, some of them work 6 hours a day. I mean, there's all kinds of variance, and I think maybe what we need to look at is what they've worked additional,
Right.
over what they would normally work and maybe compensate them, even though they're getting paid, we compensate them with some comp time for halftime. You know, they would have gotten, if they weren't, they'd be getting time and a half, which is typical compensation for comp time once you go over 40. So maybe we look at it like that we offer them the halftime comp time to go along with their paycheck that they're able to earn, and that's kind of what you're talking about. They would, I don't want to say they're getting something for nothing, but they are, because they are working, that they would get, we would be rewarding them for working.
I'm good with whatever we come, I just want to make sure we're fair about it.
Okay, we'll look into that.
At the end of the day, I want to make sure we're treating them all the same way.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next part, this is just giving some information, talking about the testing window. All right, first of all, if, right now we're going under the assumption that testing is going to still be on. Nothing has been said otherwise. However, due to the interruptions of instruction, the commissioner is going to make the testing window more flexible to meet the needs of the districts. Keep in mind, any decision of halting state tests must first go through the General Assembly, then be sent to the Secretary of Education to request a waiver. No one has mentioned that yet, and I would strongly encourage us to continue moving forward, thinking that the test is going to continue. The only thing is, it's going to change our testing window. Once we get a firm grasp on what that looks like, we'll be pushing that stuff out to our educators. We also plan on if anything was to occur after April the 5th, and we're going under the assumption on April the 5th or April the 6th, excuse me, that we'll be here in school. But if anything was to occur that would require us to be out any longer, the instructional staff has already started on providing instructional guidelines in the event that we would be shut down. Okay? But let's hope that's not going to occur.
Mr. Spurlock, if I may, I've got a late edition from your federal liaison. Congressman Green sent a letter to Secretary DeVos today asking for a waiver for the state of Tennessee because we've had floods, we've had tornadoes, we now have had this virus, and he's asking for her to completely get us out of testing and to not ding us on the federal funds. So he said that he was going to give her a few days to mull that over and then would go back, if she's opposed to that, that he would go back to the law and write a...
That came out of committee already? Did that come out of the committee, or is it just this single congressman?
It's the congressman.
Okay, keep in mind now, it has to come from the General Assembly. It would have to come out of...
He's talking about a federal law.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would, but before it can even go to the feds, it has to come out of the General Assembly where they say that testing is suspended for this year.
And that may well be,
Yeah.
but they said today that they were going to do budget, and that's all that they were doing.
Unfortunately, they still have a little bit more time. They do have a little bit more time where they can reconvene, but it would first, anything that would suspend testing would have to come from a consensus of the entire General Assembly. Once it's there, it doesn't mean it's over with. Then what would happen, that they would give the State Department of Ed the right to send the waiver to the federal Secretary of State to suspend it. And there is in the federal law, there is an out there with crisis and things of that nature, which also includes infectious diseases. So,
Now I've got several emails on this. On April the 6th, if we're allowed to go back to school, will that open athletics back up?
absolutely. If we're back in school, everything's back to normal.
We can put that on Mr. Tackett now.
But until then, no athletics.
No-
Schools
no
closed
practice,
means
none of
no
that
athletics at all.
I
Okay.
think, if I'm not mistaken, we've gone from social distancing from 50 to 1 to 10 to 1. Is that correct? Okay. Is that correct? Okay.
Okay.
No, we've had several emails about the prom and graduation and things like that.
Yeah, and you're right. And what we're doing on that, that's so far out. I think we do have one, if I'm not mistaken, soon. Well, we're dealing with that already, right? And we're not canceling anything. We're always saying we're rescheduling it. And as we get closer, we'll know more, hopefully by the end of next week.
Okay, is that it?
That's all.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I've got a few questions I wanted to ask. So when you talked about the state or the State Department of Ed, giving the waiver as far as us being able to add these extra days in pay, is that also referring to, the total required days, the 180 days attendance,
Correct.
that's going to get waived if we wind up going over, or I guess going under would be?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. It's a waiver to the 180-day requirement.
That we get paid for attendance anyway?
Right.
Okay.
And the actual, and what we were told is last week, the actual funding mechanism would be in place also. We would get that from the state.
Good, okay. I've been asked by a number of people, if it goes further than this, is there a possibility we would have to address or look at extending the school year out into the summer?
If they waive the days, no.
Okay. So that possibly could continue if indeed best case scenario doesn't happen and we don't get to come back on April 6th, that the state could still continue to.
What we were told today is they're going to work with us. In fact, they told us you can go ahead and start submitting your request for a waiver. Now, the only issue with that for me would be currently we know we're going to be 2 days under. What if we submit that waiver early and then we have to go back and amend that? So I think we would be better served if we watched and see where this goes before we do submit that.
Sure, that makes sense. ACT testing, I guess there were some that were scheduled for this week and next
Right.
week. So how will we handle that?
Right. Our makeup day is April the 21st. Okay. April the 21st is our makeup day.
So will that be like, for instance, if there were, because I know we hold them at different high schools.
That would
they
be
would
at all the
have
different
same
high
makeup
schools.
day? Okay.
Yes.
April, I'm sorry, what was
And the good thing about that, that's our junior day. And typically, if they take it on April the 21st, the next fall, we'll have a retake for those that want to retake it.
Okay.
And we definitely have to have 95% participation. Right, Dr. Sullivan?
Now, are we requiring anything of the teachers? As far as, there's been all the conversation about online learning and lesson plans and all of that. But we know too, at the end of the day, many of our students don't have access or the ability to do those things. So how are we going
Yeah,
to
that's a great question.
manage that?
And actually, that was part of my online conversation with, and keep in mind, this is for a reason. If one section of the population, teachers are doing something with their teachers or with their students, and we're not having the other section of the population because they don't have the ability to do that or may not have the Wi-Fi or whatever, then it's not equitable. So what we've asked is during this week and next week, and of course we got spring break after that, to refrain from that because it presents some, not being very equitable across the district. Now, what we will do, if it goes further than that, then we'll be, like I stated before, we'll be providing these instructional guides for everyone. Now, even that is not foolproof, because people have technology, some don't.
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, if nothing else, we're adjourned.